Hello, good morning, friends. Blissful morning to each of you. Welcome to this webinar, Project Management Office 5-Year Sustenance Plan, IT Plan. A warm welcome from Sea Change on behalf of the entire team of Sea Change Consulting. Before I introduce the speaker, I thought I'll quickly walk you through because some of you are new to our webinar sessions. We have been doing it for last about 5 days consecutively on various topics. We handled sales, we handled costing, finance, working capital, we handled digital transformation of MSMEs, we handled manufacturing and process optimization. Yesterday we handled time structuring. So various speakers, professionals, eminent speakers are giving their best to support the current situation of our new normal. So thank you very much for your participation, because this webinar of today is more towards Project Management Office 5-Year IT Sustenance Plan. I think every organization needs project management environment to be able to handle the future course of action more effectively, more profitably, and more optimally. With that, I'd like to walk you through a quick slide on our organization. 18 years, many of you know. And we two are the founders, Mr. Prakash on my left and myself on the right, M.K. Anand. Mr. Prakash is the CEO and founder and leadership and business coach for entrepreneurs, mid-cap organizations, and industries across the country and outside the country as well. Myself, Anand, I look after the strategic business advisory services of Sea Change. We have more than 100 consultants associated with us, supporting the industries in various functional requirements. We have done about 500 projects so far, graciously, and thanks to all the clients, industry for the support. We are supported by about 6 team of captains. Each group we have a captain who handles multiple topics. We have associates, consultants who are supporting us. You can just name any function, we have experts to support. This is a journey of an organization over the last 18 years, more than 100 plus consultants, 70 plus partners, ever growing. More and more partners are associating with us. Today's world, more youngsters are coming forward to take up entrepreneurship, associating with us to take the services head on. Because India needs a lot of people. India needs more and more Sea Change, more and more consultants to support the enterprise organizations and the MSMEs. Essentially, MSMEs, as everybody talks about in today's world, more than 75 million people, 75 million companies are there in the country, which means 7.5 crore MSMEs. So we need hundreds and thousands of people to support. We have publication division. We are authors. Mr. Prakash has written more than 10 books, and one of the books, which is actually coming up in a short while from now, A Spiritual CEO is the name of the book, which is going to be released in a short while from now, once the lockdown is lifted. And I'm sure you will enjoy reading these books for your business maximization. All these books are pertaining to business and self-improvement and self-development. I have co-authored a book called Golden Rules, essentially written for MSMEs. We have built quite a lot of digital assets over the years. You could see all these links on the screen. You can always ping us for any information required in the future. We have our footprint in a few countries where we have clients we are supporting, and we are ever expanding our services across the globe. With this input, I thought I'll first move on to the session 1. We have 2 parts in this webinar. One is a speaker who's going to deliver a session on the topic, given topic. And then we'll move on Q&A. I guess some of the names appeared here. It seems to be first time visitor of this webinar of our organization. I hope you're all from IT or ITES or software industry, or even the other industries as well. You can feel free to ask your questions in the chat room, so I can take the questions. Even while the session is in progress, you can actually post your queries, And I'll take those questions and I'll put it to Mr. G.N. Sivaramakrishna, who's the speaker of the day. I have a few questions which I'll ask him at the end of the second part of the session, which is Q&A. And then we'll close the session by 12:15 to 12:30 max. With that, I'd like to introduce Mr. G.N. Sivaramakrishna, who's the speaker of our webinar today. Thank you very much, Mr. GNS, for accepting our request. Mr. G.N. Sivaramakrishna offers business consulting services since 2015 to startups and emerging enterprises in the growth path. The services include corporate planning, manpower strategy, go-to-market strategy, capital advisory services, management. He has held stellar roles in the information technology industry during the period 1986 to 2015. More than 3 decades of expertise he brings to the table, which included successful working stints with HCL Limited, Pentafo Software, CSS Corp Incorporation, Ragniath LLC in Saudi Arabia, and PT Business Intelligence Technologies in Indonesia. He has traveled to 4 countries and lived in 3 countries outside of India throughout his career. He has trained and made functional more than 25 managers in his career, apart from around 100 more persons in the category of sales executives. With this brief note, I'll leave the webinar session to a speaker, Mr. G. Welcome, sir. Thank you. Mr. GNS, I'm loading your slide. I hope you are hearing.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Anand, and welcome all the viewers and participants of this webinar. Basically, we are going to talk about project management office, how large corporates or any size corporate will handle their IT infrastructure going forward for the next 5 years, depending on what is happening in terms of the current situation and the new normal situation that will emerge. I'm quite thankful to Mr. M.K. Anand, co-founder and Chief Operating Officer of Sea Change Consulting, for this wonderful opportunity to enable me to convey some of my thoughts and as to how and why would the corporate industry move forward and change its business strategy consequent to the coronavirus 19 situation that we are facing right now, and how the world will move forward in terms of changed human touch to business and all other daily aspects of life which affect the business in turn. So we are focusing our thoughts here on how to look at the dramatically changing scenario of the information technology system that any company can adopt. Okay. Now, this will be the factor which will drive the business going forward. Sometimes many organizations may also adopt some new ways of working, not necessarily for the next 6 months or 1 year, but even going forward. Some of the large IT organizations have said that going forward in the next 5 years, they may have as much as 20% or 25% of their staff being working from home also. So there is a lot of changed scenario. Yeah, so Mr. Anand, can we go to the slide number 3? Yeah, this slide, gentlemen and ladies, it talks about what is a technology optimization in any organization. See, basically, we all know that over the last 25 to 30 years, IT has started playing so much important role in the conduct of business of any organization. So the way things have changed, people have every aspect of the business, whether it is a marketing or finance or operations or delivery or supply chain management or even internal procurement, everything has a touch of IT in it. How does this IT system come about? If you look at this slide, what we are saying is any business strategy that any company has, that will devise and also it will drive the business process that is required to be developed. So after the business process is written, then what happens is an organization will work out what is called the information systems strategy. The information system strategy is a fallout of the business process, which will be the core mantra of the company when they move forward to talk about how to position their business into the marketplace. After the information strategy is then written, following that comes what is called the IT systems and the infrastructure. So IT systems and infrastructure, what happens basically is like uh, we need to deep dive at this stage for running this kind of business with this kind of information strategy, and how you are going to connect a customer, how you are going to connect a vendor, how you are going to connect a business associate, how you are also going to connect the public in large, will determine how you are going to deep dive and decide the IT systems. See, this will in turn uh, drive what is called as the what is the hardware platform, what is the software platform, how is the system architecture going to be implemented, what are the software components, what is the overall implementation plan, what is the sustenance plan for the next few years to come. And all these put together are what is called today a project management office, PMO, which is a very integral part of any organization which does have to do business by connecting to the outside world, and they need to do it with an information technology. Okay, slide number 4, Mr. Anand. Okay, now we are now going to talk of the current context. All of us are aware over the last 2 months, there has been a lot of discussion about how businesses are going to change after this pandemic episode. When the people come back to normal life, how are they going to look at business? How are they going to conduct their business and things like that? There has been already people who have decided, yes, this is the way we have to change, this is the way we have to adopt, and rapidly they are changing their business models. But when you want to look at all that, everybody uses first the word what is called survival. So we have to survive. How to survive in all aspects? That is first basic the human life aspect. After the human life aspect, how do you survive in your business? In your business, when you survive, how do you keep everything intact? Which means the elements of your conducting of your business. So in the form of information technology, there are 3 points which I'd like to take here. One is, the first point is the alternate methods of information technology adoption to sustain business operations. See, when the business entity depended purely on data entry at vantage points, including, for example, if you look at a large steel manufacturing company and they are going to use a weighbridge management system at the gate, when the lorries are loaded and the weighbridge weighs the lorry and the lorry is moving out, if you look at that function, at the weighbridge management system, you will have some 15 people working. There will be people who will be coordinating the lorry movement. There will be people who will be putting some calibrations on the machine that is going to record it. There are people who are going to take reports. There are people who are going to do physical checking, and then there are going to be an activity. Now imagine this activity is going to happen tomorrow in a same steel manufacturing company where you cannot afford to have 15 people in that 500 square feet of space, or maybe even lesser than that, because of social distancing norms. How are you going to handle it? So that's a neo-technical resource management that has to happen, wherein most part of the transactional aspects of that information technology will have to move to different locations. It has to be spread out. Somebody who is recording the physical weight and entering some data may have to be there, but there are other processes that are involved in that. We'll have to shift outside of that location and then spread out. So what happens is the workflows themselves will have to get adapted to, instead of sitting within that gate and within that building which is adjoining the weighbridge, if they are sitting about 400 meters away, or maybe 1 kilometer away, or maybe even 5 kilometers away, the connectivity of the IT, the connectivity of the network, and then the transactional aspect should be so synchronized in such a way that the movement is same as if all the people were located in the same place and moving the truck. So that's what I mean as an alternate method of information technology adoption to sustain the business operation. That's an example I have taken. Second point, minimal new investment to go on with the changed work style. Now, what happens is any organization, when they come to know that I have to change my infrastructure, I have to modify my network and I have to change the way of working, will it make me spend a lot of money? Am I going to get a big dent in my profitability, or am I going to have a bigger interest burden that I will serve to my bank loans? So many factors will come. When that is there, at the same time, we as information technology professionals, what we should try and strive to do for the customer is, when such alternate methods such as above are becoming mandatory or even desirous, you can use the word mandatory or desirous as a simple, yet the less expensive new investment bucket need to be created. Which means, if you were having older type of infrastructure at the location with several heavy equipment with infrastructure, but when you are moving out the same to different locations and putting people at that place to work, the cost of that additional increment of that infrastructure should not be so high. Then what happens? You have to go and adopt new technology, lean systems and things like that, and then good communication network with a broadband or whatever it is, and then shift the storage capacity to a cloud with a lower expense. So these are some things that done for large organizations, whether it is a manufacturing company in the form of an automobile manufacturing, or a process industry like a cement or a fertilizer or a chemical, anywhere. Like, now, when you come to that third point, setting up of a resilient, future-proof system of information management. So what did we see in the first two stages? We saw that we have to change the information technology mechanism. We saw that the information technology change should also come with lesser investment. Now we are going to see how to set up a resilient, future-proof. Future-proof means, if this is going to be the new norm, not necessarily for the next 1 year, but probably for the next 3 years or 5 years or even 10 years, it has to be resilient enough, and future proof is required. How to do that? While this is made, there is a possibility of an unplanned, renewed information management system. What happens is, 2 years down the line, the technology may change. Now, we have also seen that we have started using a small, when mobile phones came into picture, the people used to call it as a PDA, basically a personal device in hand and things like that. But now, a mobile system, you can do anything. So when technology changes, even when we are now adopting this new thing, how to make it future proof? What we'll have to do is, the resulting system will bring in even a changed recruitment pattern. That is very important. Not only the people who are currently working, the recruitment pattern of the people who are going to work at those locations will also have to change, which means the skill that is required. See, what is happening is, what is the talent of a person available in the company today who is doing the job? That's fine. What is the talent of the person who needs to do the same job tomorrow? Maybe a little different. What is the skill required for that person to do that work tomorrow is even more different, because he has to be more tech savvy, and he has to be more adaptability towards rendering the same customer delight to the customer, but utilizing a new change. So what is happening is, the resilient future proof system of information management comes laced with even the resource management angle, the skill that is need to be developed, and the skill that is required for persons to work in the new normal system, and which throws up a new challenge to the companies in terms of finding the nimble-footed people. Yesterday I was attending a seminar where they were saying that there were a lot of skills that are available in women empowerment. When you look at it going forward, many people would not have taken up jobs, and because they have to travel to the information technology SOPs, SDPs, that is the software technology park, or SEZ or something like that. Suppose you see there will be about 25 to 30% of a large company with 50,000 staff is required to be working from home. Then you can find the women empowerment will also increase. A lot of ladies will come and be able to work. So you are able to even change the profile of basically your employee profile, your touch profile, and also your ability to bring in better talent skill across the paradigm of the operations. Next slide, Mr. Now, we saw the survival aspect. Now, can we see what is the stabilization aspect? So, Basically, what we are saying is first you survive, then you stabilize. So when you stabilize, what happens is you have to see the first point here is seamless change management resulting in the new IT systems with existing infra. So changed work culture brings about the scattered network of people, as I mentioned to you, and this will be a continuing factor to the resilient mechanism as of the third point, which I mentioned in the previous stage, which is the survival stage. Industry technology majors are bringing in new products with fast-paced R&D. If you take the bigwigs in the world, the Microsofts and the SAPs and the Oracles and all these people, when they know that the world is going to change working in a different way, they are also going to very fast R&D they are doing to bring about new systems, newer technology, which are lesser expensive, but more adaptability to work and things like that. So we at Sea Change, what we are trying to do is we are going to bring the best practice to your doorstep, with a fully changed IT systems deployment. Configurations will go for a total change. Connectivity points will undergo a big digital transformation, and also performance management will also be with newer parameters. So when you are going to stabilize, what happens basically is companies will get reconciled to the fact that this is going to be the new normal and this is going to be so. Whatever they are now going to additionally and incrementally invest, let us say between the period 2020 to 2022, how to sustain that investment going forward for the next 4 years or 5 years also, and see that not much of additional investments is required, but at the same time business can be grown in a bigger progression, which will help into the profitability and other things for the organization. Second point here is backed up alternate system to boost business growth. Now, what does this mean? Basically, how will this new system with the backed up data at various cloud platforms generate additional business? Hitherto, when some functions were never ever thought of, people plus work connect aspects in stabilized network, today there is a possibility 40% of the staff will be made to work from home, and the technology optimization will help in the cost. So how will we do that? You have to cut elsewhere. What will happen is physical brick and mortar infrastructure, real estate space cost, that will have to be changed. Unfortunately, that may take a beating in one segment of the industry, but it will result in better profitability in another aspect of the thing. So what happens is there is a possibility of enabling functioning of the personnel in the distributed network to they can even do multiple disciplines. See, sometimes what happens is if you notice lateral recruitment of organizations plans will keep on adding people, but I am sure all of you will agree going forward for the next 5 years, people will start thinking if I'm able to make a person work from home, and if I'm able to make some kind of a technology changes, and if I'm able to make an extraction of about 2 to 3 hours of working time from everybody's daily 8-hour time frame by way of what is called as breakthrough thinking, then can I make people to do multiple disciplining of tasks, which means basically persons, that is where what I mentioned in the last slide, the new skill that is required. A person who can do multidiscipline tasking and things like that using, and then the more and more people are able to adapt to using cloud technology and distributed networks and satellite networks of computers and ITs and softwares and other things, they are in a position to take multidiscipline and get, then what happens? The transactional time for each and every transaction that was being happening in the company in the last few years gets shrunk and shrunk further, which means you are in a position to do more business. You are able to better boost your production capabilities. You are able to get more business to your vendors. You are able to secure more business from your customers. So it's a big change. Last point is resource management in the new paradigm. Resource management again, becomes a key factor. Resources with the ability to undertake, as I mentioned to you again, new and additional tasks, and people with a lesser experience, number of years experience, because they are adopting technology and things like that. So companies are now re-evaluating how contact centers are leveraged, how employees can deliver relevant customer experiences where they work from, and how digital channels can be used to support businesses. See, what happens is you can also, when you look at this kind of distributed networks, you can even create far-flung service-oriented people. Like if a company had about 10 offices in India so far, because they had 10 buildings and 10 cities and 10 regional operations. But if they are going to do some WFH concept of about 20-30%, why not spread the footprint of that company to 25 places across the country? Because there's going to be a set of 2-3 people in each location. That means the customers who are in that, see, this is what happened in the US in the period 1960s to 80s, I mean 1940s to 80s, where you don't find all companies are located in the top 5 cities in the US. Every company, if you find, who is a big major, who is having probably 5,000 branches all over the world and even 1 lakh employees, you may be finding that they will be located in a small town called North Canton in an Ohio state, which you might not even imagine. Now, when you come out to these kind of development aspects, you can even get to, there is a new concept, people who have been in the IT majors like Wipro and TCS and HCL and other places. What they are doing right now, already over the last 5 to 10 years, they are trying to evolve new systems where they can go to tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities to develop talent. This is an excellent way to enhance that. Already what is happening is the talks that are going on in major paradigms where we are talking in management seminars or webinars rather, is that already in US there has been a lot of work from home concept. If it comes to India, all that it is going to do is to only increase the business. There's no going to be going back, basically. Okay, next slide, Mr. Anand. Now, what happens when the old normal situation comes back? Yes, we may find that probably a couple of years down the line, or 1 year down the line, or even 6 months down the line, we don't find that corona is existing anymore and there is no threat and people can move along freely. Except, of course, they are always cautious enough to touch, contact, and various other aspects, which will not be something which mankind will forget in the very short time to come. However, if old normalcy returns, then what happens? Are you going to jump back into the old structure by discarding the new structures that you have created, or are you trying to go and continue working with the same newly created infrastructure, but bring about a lot of changes which is going to create more and more interesting ways of working? For example, after a 6-month period, if the world returns to normalcy, uh, is it going to be an ability to regroup people in large numbers? Suppose you had sent the same 500 people in your company to, they are going to be working in 500 different places because each person is working from his or her home. And after the normalcy returns, are you going to try and call all the 500 people back to an office and get to work? Or would you still want to see if that system which you are now creating has become a fail-proof and a future-proof system and it is really working well? Why not continuing it? So what you are going to do, you are going to replace office networks and business networks with human networks. Now what happens is human networks becomes the most important aspect rather than business networks, office networks, or infrastructures, basically. So the human network, wherever they are located, with the backed IT infrastructure at home come office locations, if we notice that many large corporates have already started telling that they'll have a larger work from home. Now, what are we trying to talk here? We are trying to talk about the surge ahead aspect. First, we spoke about this survival. Next, we spoke about the stability and stabilization. Now, we are going to talk about the surge ahead. Suppose we knew that this new system that we created is worked well, it has been adapted, and we had only 3 to 5% of some failure aspects here and there, which is okay to be corrected. If that is the case, how do we now increase the business manifold by using this kind of a distributed human network system rather than business office network system. That times what happens is the ability to think about the OPEX versus CAPEX, which is a big talk on everyday management for various corporates. Where does the IT sustenance plan comes here? IT sustenance plans comes in such a way that there is always a very sustained and newly planned IT deployment mechanism that is going to be adopted by the EDP department, what we used to call the EDP department in the old days, or you can call it the IT manager these days. They are going to only look at how, okay, tomorrow there's somebody who is an extremely talented and skilled person who is like, situated in a place called Hoshiarpur. Instead of getting that Hoshiarpur person to come to Bombay and work in Nariman Point, why not you allow him to work from Hoshiarpur? So what will happen is the IT for that area, for whatever is required, that will be adopted. So the CAPEX getting slowly changed to an OPEX model. What happens basically, even if there is a requirement for overriding of businesses due to some kind of a faulty or delays, you are really saving yourself because you are only going to focus on OPEX rather than CAPEX. Okay. Now, how do you trust a totally new business process engineering mode? See, when I showed the slide which showed you about the business process and then the business strategy first, which drives the business process, which drives the information strategy, and which drives the IT systems hardware infrastructure. So which means I said that if a company wants to sell a company wants to sell a product which is like, for example, it's a textile product. Now the process of the company will derive how the IT system has to be changed. But now in a BPOR mode, currently when you are going to surge ahead, probably the IT system and the IT infrastructure, and then backwards the IT strategy, and then backwards the business process, and then backwards the business strategy, which comes reverse. So that's also possible. So you are going to drive your business through a trust in a BPR mode. You will probably be finding, see, we do not know how the marketing gurus who are going to start writing new marketing programs after the coronavirus, you will find hundreds of new marketing strategies that are going to come to the market. And who may even get surprised is those companies who were actually doing a lot of losses and who are not doing too well in the last 5 years. Because of these scenarios, they may start doing too well. They may be really going on top of the business in their own field, and they may be really enjoying a new wave of technology thrust. So while we see that business has to drive the IT systems, what I'm trying to say, when you are going to surge ahead, if you are going to think put a different thinking cap and use a different hat, you may probably want to get more boxes, ideas out of the boxes, and that will make you write the IT business strategy and then drive your business. We are there to come and talk to you about that. We have experts in our panel who will come and talk to you and see how you can modify that. There are organizations who are in a position where turnaround consulting is required. Our organization does what is called turnaround consulting, and here we are going to do that with information technology. Okay, now we are going to discuss one more point. This point basically is alternation of investment buckets between systems, resources, and things like that. See, this is again stemming out from the fact that the IT technology major brings about new paradigm, and then we change our business process, we change our IT system. Then what we do probably some kind of research and come out with some ideas and say that, hey, this has changed my business, and then we make it as an idea. That ideation again goes back to the drawing board of the technology majors. They will make a new design. So it's going to be basically a cyclic business activity. You might be quite surprised that you would have seen also in the last 2 months, everybody said, you want something, stay at home, we'll bring it for you. You do not know what else will come to your house. You do not know. Anything can come to your house. So already, if you have noticed over the last 30 years and now, there are so many things which there were things that we were never ever imagining that something will come to our doorstep today is coming. No, what is happening now, basically, as we are talking of this project management office, which is going to drive your business in the new normal after this corona, information technology adoption with the new design as how it is going to be. Create a human network of business. Do not create business network. Create a human network with equipping them with the information technology gadgets, services, and also technology and their palms. They're going to do wonders, and you are in a position to review things across the fly every microsecond or millisecond, and you know how to resiliently take your business to the next step. So, folks, these are some of the points that I wanted to talk to you. There may be more specific points that we can answer in terms of any organization which may have a challenge. We can always see how we can come out with that. Anandji, you can take over. I've conveyed some of the thoughts that I had, and I'm happy to discuss further.
Thank you so much, JNSG. It shows that, your 30 years of expertise. That's like a supersonic flight. You delivered so much, in short span of time. I'm extremely happy that you delivered it in 38 minutes precisely. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. And quite a good of, I guess, software people are there in the participation. There are about 20 participants who are actually watching this webinar. And I like to, take their help to post their queries. If you have any queries, dear participants, kindly post your queries, your questions. Let it be, more of a very informal conversation. Let us not keep it very rigid. So please post your queries, post your observation, post your understanding, not only about this topic, around this topic in the current new normal situation of COVID-19, so that we can exchange our notes. We can pose these questions to Mr. Sivaramakrishna, a man who's traveled last 30 years, various parts of the world. I'm sure he'll be able to share his wisdom with us. And while you are typing your questions, I would like to ask Sivaramakrishna ji to help me understanding few questions which I have. Is it okay, Mrs. GNS?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. So let me check any questions posted by anybody. Okay, so while the participants are about to type, let me start with this first question. Sir, when it comes to project management, let me open my video. When it comes to project management office, you mentioned 5-year IT sustenance plan. My question goes like this. How much would an IT system infrastructure change based on a revised mode of operation in the business?
It is quite possible that at least about 20 to 25% of the system infrastructure will change within a very short span of time. I will give you an example. There is a company in Chennai. I don't want to name the company. I had a business meeting, of course, a video conference last week. See, they are having about 7,500 employees, okay, and they are a software services company, and they are doing work for their clients abroad. Now, out of the 7,500 employees, currently about close to 7,000 employees were working from the physical buildings of their offices within their, in Chennai, I'm saying, it is within Chennai. Now, they just moved, they took a decision in about 4 weeks' time after the corona lockdown happened in the end of March and middle of April. They took a decision to move 1,750 people to work from home for the next 3 years. They decided. Okay. And they didn't know what happened. Of course, they had to decide to shift. How about shifting the 1,750 computers from the existing building location to the homes? They found out of the 1,750 people were using, about 1,000 people were using desktops and 750 people were using about laptops. So the laptops can be moved, okay? So they had to convert the 1,000 desktops to laptops. So which means here what happened, from 7,500, if you look at 7,750, it's almost 25% or more than that.
Yes.
Okay. So depending on any organization's ability, now what happens is companies will even start thinking, oh, was this possible? Then why was I calling everybody to travel 40 kilometers to a location outside Chennai city and then sit in a place from morning 7 o'clock to evening 5 o'clock? And then I am spending about 100,000 square feet of space of electricity and admin and things like that. Okay, I am not saying that in a very brazen manner that things will change. I am saying gradually things could change, but anywhere between 5 to 10% is what I assume to be very, very conservatively.
That's wonderful
I have
reflection.
conveyed the answer to you, Mr. Anand.
Yes, you reflected very well. In fact, classic example is TCS, right? They talk about 25-25. So they are. Yeah. So that's going to be the new normal for IT industry, especially. So the second question, before anybody asks any questions, yes, I think they're ready to type. I request participants to share your questions, your observation, not necessarily the question, even your observation you can type. The second question from my end is, how could a training be conducted on a new normal system, which has more of a remote network of operators to deliver the tasks?
Yeah. See, it's very, progressively over the last 5 years, we have seen training programs have moved online slowly, not truly. But there were organizations still, even as late as the last quarter of 2019-20, or maybe the third quarter of 2019-20, believed that if a training has to be conducted, it has to be conducted in a training hall. Okay. Now, what happens is you are going to move some operations to about 20% of the operations to work from home. But you are also going to add new software applications or new software systems. Now, training will be definitely conducted primarily online now. Everything will be online now.
Correct.
No trainer will see. There will be some industries which will lose money. Airline travel industry will lose money probably. But what will happen is the reach. People can sit wherever they are, and people can. But only thing is, how will the review happen? How will you understand whether the person has learned and things like that? Now, that is also going to be a different game altogether. There will be video sessions to test people in terms of learning and things like that. And today we have been seeing people are able to even people are even able to organize Carnatic concerts with 25 players in one place with a synchronization. How?
Yes.
Why will you fail in making a training program with 50 people sitting in 50 places and then seeing how you can measure the efficiency of them? Easy. It is going to be easy, basically.
Absolutely. I think it's going to evolve in a much stronger way as we go by. That's nicely you put it. And the third question is, in a group software product development scenario, how will the version controls be managed in a new normal work from home plan?
Yeah. See, what happens is there are cloud servers. Cloud servers are existing. Typically, what is happening is product development, if it is happening in very larger, or suppose Microsoft is developing a product. A particular product will have about 20 teams working from 20 different locations in 5 different countries. Forget within a country or within a city. So they had a mechanism of posting everything to a cloud hub and then managing the version controls. Now you come to smaller organizations, companies which are in 1,000 numbers, 2,000 numbers, or 5,000, 10,000 numbers, and they are doing product development. What can happen is now they have to create new avenues. They will have, GitHub is one of the servers which is located in the cloud, and version control will have to be done. So basically what happens is the person who is the software architect is going to play a bigger role, and the person who is going to do the collation and also compiling of the application, which are being programmed by different sets of people at the cloud hub level, is going to be changing also. So that is not going to be a difficult task. Only thing is it has to be set with a new set of IT policies, IT rules, security mechanisms, and also trying to see some factor of authentication systems that will go with protection of the consumer data. These are the aspects that will be taken care of.
Okay.
Anandji?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, got it. Very nice. In fact, another question is, 1 minute. One Mr. Kartikeyan asked, usually programs we are giving joint exercises and similar things, can such thing happen in webinar? And the question is, usually in training programs, we are given joint exercises and similar things.
Yes.
Can such thing happen in webinar is what his question is.
Yes, it definitely can happen. In fact, there is a possibility where you can flash out something and you can even time. See, everything is connected. So the persons who are going to be, there will be even a possibility where a person who is starting uh, the test or something like that, and through a distributed software system, as to what time they have started, when they have ended. Like, for example, just now Anand said that I finished my talking in 38 minutes out of the allocated 45 minutes, which meant that there was a methodology of measuring my time. The same thing is possible when you're doing a test and when they are doing online. See, you, for example, I do not know if I can take one example. If you see the, people who are passing a certain examination, they are all going to be located, about 15,000 people are taking a test all over the country. What used to happen is there are centers all over the country where each center used to take 50 people who will walk into that. There will be a LAN there. That LAN will be connected to a WAN. The WAN will be connected to a satellite network, whatever it is. But once they finish their test and post their test, within 30 seconds or 1 minute, they get their report and result and said, yes, you have passed, you have failed, finished. The same thing is possible, except that the 50 people seating centers is going to be replaced with one person seating center at your home. That's it. The mechanism is the same. I hope I have answered that question. If there is further more clarity required, I can send data, no problem.
Okay.
Anand, I hope I have, yeah.
The last sentence I had a buffer here, so I'm unable to really connect to that last sentence of yours.
Okay, what I mentioned is that the mechanism is the same as being adopted when certain tests and examinations are happening, except that a set of 20, 50 seater centers will get replaced by one seater center of 100 numbers or 1000 numbers at their homes. So that is the only change. Otherwise, the mechanism is the same. It is possible. Yeah, Mr. Anand, can you hear me?
Thank you. Mr. GNS, another question asked by, I'm able to hear you. Another questions have come here.
Sure.
One is about what is the impact of security in the changed scenario where people are working from home?
Yeah. See, basically, if you look at cyber security, that is what we are talking here in terms of cyber security has adopted so much of avenues of protecting. Like, I'll give an example of something called a two-factor authentication. A two-factor authentication is you are trying to do a transaction from your mobile phone from home to a bank, like what we know in net banking. And then once we are logging into the system with the user ID and password, and for a transaction, you have something called a one-time password, the OTP. Now, there is something beyond that. You can have a three-factor authentication, four-factor authentication, five-factor authentication, even a six-factor authentication. For example, a third-factor authentication can be your biometric, either your iris or your finger fingerprint. All smartphones are coming with the fingerprint. Okay. Now, when you look at a desktop or a laptop, it may not have, a laptop has a fingerprint possibility, desktop may or may not have, but basically what I mentioned in some of the points when I discussed about the way the technology majors are changing the way of designing new systems, they may be bringing a diskless node with just a small device which will be located at home with only a monitor, and there will be any possibility of even having a four-factor. You can have one user ID password, one one-time password, one biometric finger, and one eyeball movement, which means unless until all these four are done sequentially, you cannot even do the work and pass on your work to the next workflow management system where the other person can do your work and then pass on to his next stage. So cyber security can be really be very dramatically handled and then changed depending on the way this work from home culture is going to come about.
Okay. Okay. That's nice, really interesting. See, the next from Mr. Karthikeyan. Of course, in between, Mr. Suresh of HP said, nice presentation. So he just conveyed his wishes to you.
Thank you, Suresh.
And,
thank you, Suresh.
Mr. Karthikeyan has mentioned here, business model of a company, if it is transparent, is it a setback? As an employee, should I be aware of my company's model? I don't know at what level Mr. Karthikeyan is there in the organization. So this is a question from Mr. Karthikeyan.
Mr. Karthikeyan, the answer to your question is that I had a physical experience of doing a consulting service for a Sri Lankan-based very large garment manufacturing company, and they were exporting to so many places. They had this business model of the company was evolving quite rapidly. And at one stage, when we were doing management consulting to them, we had gone to the stage of telling them that business model is required to be permeated down the line to the employees because of the reason. See, in olden days, we had people where we said, do what I say. That used to be the philosophy in companies. Now, do what as I say is not there. Do, that's it. Now the person has to think how to, innovatively do his job. Now let me answer your question. If you say that business model, how good it is to be transmitted towards the layers of the organization down the level, there is something called breakthrough thinking. See, if you look at the last stage, I'll give an example of the same garment exporter. There was a lady who is supposed to bring certain items together, the threads, the needles, and then the cloth pieces to the set of huge shop floor of sewing machines which are making one particular activity. Now, if she was doing 10,000 pieces in a day, if she was able to improve her process of doing that by knowing the company's business process and strategy and slowly increase that to 15,000 pieces a day, what she is actually doing is she is doing breakthrough thinking. She is able to shrink the time per transaction per unit of the work that is required, and then she is able to produce more. The productivity is higher because when a company is trying to grow their business from 10 crores to 100 crores, they can't keep increasing the business or the building size to 10 times, or even the parking lots for 100 more cars, or even the things like that. If they are able to, cleverly able to multiply the revenue within the same space, but enabling the people to do more productivity, how will that happen? Only when the people know the business process. But to what extent you will convey what is the intellectual property information that you want to withhold till such time, that is a judgment you have to take in terms of the ability and the amount of information you pass on. So yes, the answer is yes, you have to convey to your employee today in this today's world where people are intelligent enough to understand the goals of the organization.
Okay. In fact, that's really good. In fact, I have addressed the question with respect to the business owners or the project heads or the senior management of the organization. And the question was actually asked by the project manager or and maybe the second or third layer of the organization. He was asking, like, should I be aware of my company's model?
Obviously, yes. Obviously, yes.
Okay. And another question.
It depends on how much his organization wants to disseminate the information. That is an individual organization ability. But in today's new paradigm, out of the box thinking, yes.
Correct. So I think the information in the digital world, digital era, I guess the mutual trust and respect, it plays a vital role, and transparency is one of the key elements. As long as we are transparent in the organization with the framework followed, I guess with the proper DNA, the organization can thrive much better than in the past. And I have another question asked by somebody in the Facebook Live. There are a lot of people who watch and as well. One Mr. Satya is a supply chain management expert. He asked this question. Of course, he's appreciating the effort of us doing this activity webinar. The question is, how do we educate the customers and make them understand the importance of digitizing the work? In a way, it can improve their work and make them to move away from paper to paperless world. This happens despite the fact that many of them are still reluctant to move to digital world, and they are happy with the way they conduct business, even though they know very well. The efficiency and transparency is very, very poor.
Yes. Okay. I will answer
the question.
I got the question. I will answer with a small example, a very vital example, in fact. See, security in airports is a very important aspect of life, which everybody knows. Let's not worry about the corona syndrome. I'm saying pre-corona situation. When the small horizontally oriented handwritten tickets changed to tickets being printed on A4 printing paper, there were times when you had to print an A4 sheet paper and take it to the security to show the ticket and show your, your PAN card or your driving license or whatever, or your passport if you're going abroad, and enter. How many people are showing a physical A4 size printed paper today? The security guy is going to look at your iPhone and the screen where it shows the ticket issued by the airline, which has the PNR number and then the starting time and the departure time, and the arrival time. And he's also seeing you have that new app which is from the government recognized, the document management app, which says that you can store the PAN in that, you can store the driving license in that. You may physically carry the driving license and PAN in your purse, which is in your pocket, in your pant at the time, but you are able to show that, and that's accepted. Now, you also have seen a lot of examples. People have said that they have shown that when there is a cop stopping you in the road, asking if you are driving license, you are showing it from the. So coming back to that question of digitizing and making things digitized rather than physical document work, today everything is moving towards. I can give you an example of how, when I started my career in 1985, at that time in courts, high courts in India, there was a stipulation that any document which is subject to any questioning in a court of law for any litigation had to be stored for 8 years. Suppose you have a contract with a bank, the bank has to store a document for 8 years. Please tell me, where is that stipulation? It may be stipulation is available in the Constitution today, but it's not required to be followed too well. You can probably go and show a digitized document and say this is, whether it is accepted or not, maybe some legal expert can correct me, but there is something called questioned documents. The questioned documents today need not be in hundreds of pages and bales and tons to be carried around. That's the point. So yes, digitizing is accepted and can be a new norm. Yes.
The question is that beautifully you said it. In fact, even if you wanted to close your company, let's say for example, private limited company or so, you need to really have all the documents for 8 years, if I may say so. Which means, where do you store all these files which you have built over the decades, for example? So you beautifully said that e-documenting everything is a wonderful way. In fact, Government of India also launched the e-digital lock.
Yes. DigiLock. It
One
is
can
called
actually,
DigiLock. It is called DigiLock.
yeah, one can avail it actually. I think it's a free of cost. Is there any fee
Free
to be
of
paid
cost.
to the
In
government?
fact, I have all my documents in DigiLock.
Oh, okay, wonderful.
And it is and if you look at the app, it says approved by Government of India.
Okay, you
It's
get a
called DigiLock.
certificate. Okay,
You get a certificate. Yeah.
great. That's wonderful information. And another question, Mr. JNS, is what is the integration you see between IT team and HR team of an organization in the current changed scenario where 70% or more of the workers or workforce, I'm sorry, will be working from home? It's a profound question.
Yeah. Basically, there will be challenge in terms of when the brick and mortar model in the past, when a person has to see a person and say, I want to see his facial reaction, I want to see how he answers my question, what is his confidence level, is he a person who is having certain look? See, when psychological tests are done by looking at people and talking to them at 2 feet distance across a table, today you can do the same thing across a video conference.
Correct.
Across a video conference. But if somebody is saying that only a telephonic interview is done, then probably you may not be able to capture the nuances and capture the things. Now, coming to the question, the link between the information technology adoption and the human resource management, it will always have a factor of risk in terms of a few percentage of aspects going wrong here and there. But to cover up everything, there is always the cyber security controls mechanisms that you can adopt to see that resiliently you can block somebody's usage, you can change the password, you can do something like that to make a savior of your organization's data. But in my opinion, a good synergy can be established between human resource management and information technology management. Yes.
Wonderful. Wonderful. That's a way forward. In fact, Mr. JNS, just to share with you, I was talking to a country head of a software company yesterday, and he said that globally, especially in the US market, where the induction programs are happening only through online. Even the recruitment is happening online. And the induction, anyway, the frontline people, they take people in hundreds. So a trainer or a HR cannot run, a closed room meeting to offer induction program. So they outsource it to organizations, consulting organization to do induction program. So that's going to be the way forward down the line. The HR has to reinvent themselves to adapt to the digital world. Of course, many people are doing it already. You put it so nicely of the integration of IT and HR team. That's very good. I have another 2 questions to ask you.
Sure.
One is, we have enough time. I guess we are right now in 12, maybe another 10, 15 minutes, we can close the webinar. So next question is, are you okay, Mr. GNS?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm perfectly all right.
Okay. So question is, will it be possible to show saving in overall OPEX in a new normal, or will there be a wave pattern of varying levels of expenses?
Please repeat what you're saying.
Will it be possible to show saving in overall OPEX in a new normal, or will there be a wave pattern of varying levels of expenses?
Yeah. See, traditionally, if you see, when people are sitting in offices, let's say a floor of 1,000 people is in a large IT center, there are some operating expenses which happen uncontrolled. What happens is, I'll give you an example. Suppose there is a team of 20 people who are going to discuss about a particular software development product which they are doing. And then they are supposed to meet in the conference hall at 10 o'clock to discuss. Still, I'm talking of 2020, still people are having the habit of printing out a 10-page document. 20 people will print 10 pages of document and 200 pages of document will come into the hall for discussion. Now imagine these 20 people are going to be located in 20 homes and then going. Will they print 20 copies? No. They are going to only sit in front of their screen and then they are going to talk looking at the screen. But when they were in the office, when the printer was there, when the huge hall was there, when the table was there, they just printed this 20. They did not think that let me save paper, let me carry my laptop to the hall. No. Okay. So the question here is, if you have a changing mind of how to adapt to new situation, you can reduce the cost of the operating expense.
You say,
You can do that.
You so nicely put it, and COVID-19 is actually teaching all of us on the same direction.
Yes, it does. So okay. I can rattle off at least 10 such examples.
Okay.
Where you can save. That doesn't mean to say that only because if somebody is out of sight and out of mind, you can save expense. But had you started doing that even while you are in the building, then you are really already ahead of time in the curve of business proficiency.
Absolutely. Well said. So optimize your resources is what the takeaway. Thank you so much. And the last question from my end is, let any other questions posted in the 1 second. So, 1 minute. So the last question from my end is, would a business strategy always drive the IT plan, or can the reverse also be true?
It's happening now. The reverse is happening now. Like, I will tell you, take the case of a restaurant. Just I am giving a very rudimentary example. Take the case of a restaurant. Let us say, for the sake of an argument, let us say a restaurant which produces biryani and serves people. Okay. In the past, that business biryani selling restaurant was probably preparing biryani for 100 people. Imagining 50 people will have biryani in the lunchtime and 50 people will have biryani in the dinner time. Okay. Now, so he opened the shop at 12 o'clock and he sold biryanis till 3 p.m. He closed the shop at 3 p.m. He opened the shop at 7 p.m. He sold 50 more biryanis. At 10 p.m. he closed the shop, went home, right? Now what happened? Swiggy came into the picture. Zomato came into the picture. Uber came into the picture. Do you know that people are ordering biryani at 2 a.m.? Do you know that people are ordering biryani at 3 a.m.? So what did this man do who are only selling 50 biryanis in the dinner time? He started preparing 800 biryanis. Because he knows he doesn't have to seat 800 people in his 400 square feet shop. He will have 40 people coming from Zomato and Uber and Swiggy to pick up his 800 biryanis and take it to people as far as Siriseri or as far as Avadi, anywhere. So what happened? Information technology changed the business, right? Till then, that person was only selling 100 biryanis in a day because there was a finite time and finite space. Now the time is infinite, space is also infinite, business is also infinite. So yes, an IT process can change the business.
Okay. And I have another last question. Is it okay to take one more question?
Absolutely. Any more, no problem.
Okay. Thank you so much. The question is, can you please elaborate on IoT, Industry 4.0, and its impact on businesses in the years to come?
Okay. That requires, I can probably give an answer with some explanations. It might be a little tough to relate to a great extent. Basically, let me elaborate a little bit on what it is. See, IoT is happening in various industries. IoT 4.0, in my knowledge and information that I have, is stretching into large-scale manufacturing organizations and things like that. Okay. Now, what is happening basically? We would have heard of all these terminologies called fuzzy logic and things like that over the last 1 decade or 2 decades and things like that. Now, every device or every equipment or everything that is being manufactured, okay, is becoming IoT centric. For example, now what they are saying in the law, I'm just deviating a bit and going into information technology itself again. A very large IT company said that they are going to deploy not only human beings going forward to do software development work, they may be even deploying humanoids and robotic systems to develop applications. We do not know how they are going to type. I mean, I can't answer that question today, but then humanoids are going to even be part of software development activities. Then obviously the IoT level in that humanoid is of paramount nature. Now, when we are talking of IoT 4.0, basically, we are talking of large-scale manufacturing organizations adopting and things. And I'm very firm in my view that IoT 4.0 will start going towards 5.0 and 6.0 and things like that. So it's yet to stay. It's there to stay. But I can set more information to the gentleman across an email or a message or something like that.
Absolutely. That's wonderful, Mr. JNS. So I'll take the participants to the last leg of our session. So thank you very much for helping me to understand several questions which I posted to you.
Thank you.
So, wait a minute, I'm just opening the. So, participants, I'd like to take you to the logical end of this session. Thank you very much, Mr. JNS, for sparing your valuable time.
Thank you very
wisdom,
much.
What you carried over the last 3 decades and shared with us. I like to share with participants, Mr. JNS is an engineer, not now, 30 years ago. He studied in Coimbatore College of Engineering, right, at Coimbatore.
And Technology.
Yes. During his 3rd year of engineering, he approached HCL Technologies, Mr. Shivanadar. And that time, there was no placement office in that particular college. He wrote to them, he got a permission from the college management, and he ran a placement, service facilitation for the college, for his classmates then, to Shivanadar. And Shivanadar has sent his team to this college the first time in the history of that college, and they recruited Mr. JNS. That is how he joined HCL Technologies. The kind of legacy he carries is something phenomenal. So with that, I would like to end this webinar with the last 2 slides as usual. A sea change is already moved into new normal mode of offering everything into online platform. Like Mr. JNS, there are several experts, subject matter experts, various functions, various domains are supporting us. You could find a couple of services like we do a 360-degree health scan, and we support them with strategic business advisory services. Mr. JNS is one of the strategic business advisors for several organizations. He's been supporting us. If anybody is keen on that, you can always ping us. You can contact our office. The contact number is here. You can make a note of these 2 numbers. And as I requested in the beginning, the chat box, so kindly post your name, organization name, and your mobile number, email ID. You can even share this through the WhatsApp in the given number. You can visit seachangeworld.com to download COVID-19 guidelines, the health guidelines, health and safety, which we have designed along with an organization called SIPACA, who are a group of doctors who are serving ICU services in rural India. So they are kind enough to, they are supporting us by developing various content, various guidelines, health guidelines. You can download it free of cost from our website. With that, I have come to announce tomorrow's session. Tomorrow, we have a session again, like Mr. JNS, a gentleman called Mr. Sivaramakrishna, who is also a project management expert, worked in various countries, more than 20 years, and is also founder of Leader Gains PTE Limited, Singapore. Of course, he lives in Chennai now, and he's going to take us through 3 virtual tools for stress-free work environment. This is phenomenally going to be useful for several people, several hundreds people, several thousands of people. So please do attend tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock. And this series is actually ending tomorrow. Consecutively, we've been doing it last 6 days. It's 7th day is tomorrow. So 29th May, which is tomorrow, Friday, 11 a.m. I will catch you all for this first, the series end with this topic. Along with Mr. GNS, I'd like to say thanks and gratitude to each one of you for attending. Thank you, Mr. GNS, for your valuable time and valuable insights.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anand. Thanks everybody for attending this. Thank you.
Take care and happy day. Bye-bye.